A late-night tentative deal between the government and CUPE averting a strike this morning by school support workers. And joining me now, Education Minister Stephen Lecce, to talk about this tentative agreement and the negotiations with unions as we move forward, because we've got the teachers, but let's talk about the CUPE workers.
Sure.
It was a late night.
It was.
Came down around 9 o'clock. What took so long?
Absolutely. Well, good morning, first of all. Thanks for having me back. And good morning to families in the province of Ontario. I know all of them, for parents, are relieved that we got this deal. Our mission throughout this process, Melanie, was to ensure that the children in this province are in school in a safe and positive learning environment. I'm pleased that by working in good faith with our partners, with the union, with the trustees, we got a deal. And that is so important. And I mean, I stood ready throughout the last week to meet because I wanted to provide more certainty, more predictability. Negotiations are tough. Yeah. They can go late into the night. They went through the weekend. I think we showed the resolve to advance our priorities for kids when it comes to new supports for children with exceptionalities, with intellectual and developmental disabilities, a new framework to ensure greater accountability on sick days and absenteeism, and most importantly, we provided the stability that families deserve this morning.
You joined us on Thursday,
yes,
before talks resumed, and we just heard from Laura Walton about half an hour ago, and Tammy Sutherland asked, could it have happened earlier? Could you have reached a deal earlier than this weekend? She said she didn't think so. She thought that the pressure needed to be there to put on the province to really make it happen. Could a deal have been reached sooner, do you think?
You know, honestly, I think to be quite frank, there probably was a pathway to get it earlier. But at the end of the day, I think for families in Ontario, the focus is on the results, not the process. I mean, I just want to say, and I know for many families and many of my closest friends, they have kids, they had an angst. There was an anxiety for a lot of families, for a lot of moms and dads out there, and I regret that. So I'm not going to defend the fact that we announced this at 9 o'clock. I'm going to let them know that I fought hard through the process. I remained we were 24/7 available to get a deal, because I would have preferred to do this last Sunday, to be quite frank. But we got to the final hours, we got over the finish line, and I think we put kids first, and that's the important lesson here. I think what this shows, just broadly speaking, is that unions can get deals with this government. Because if we put students at the center of our focus, Melanie, I think we can land deals that actually materially improve their lives, the quality of their education, and their experience in the classroom. And our job all along was to create the conditions to bring the partners back to the table, and I'm happy we got to this point today.
Okay, so to tie a bow on this one, the ratification vote will likely happen in a few weeks' time?
That's right. I think it usually historically will take some weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
You did mention that it's about bargaining with the unions. So the statement from Premier Ford last night saying we will continue to negotiate in good faith with all of our bargaining partners. Let's talk about those bargaining partners when it comes to, next up, the teachers.
Right.
Because we saw this with CUPE workers, and now, as the teachers are looking, they're doing their strike vote now, and they'll be doing that for the next few weeks, I understand, before we see what's going to happen. Do they want to take job action? Do they want to keep negotiating with the province? How do you foresee that going? Because there are a lot of issues at hand, including class sizes.
Yeah. Obviously, we are laser focused on getting deals right across the sector to provide predictability for every family and for the kids themselves in Ontario. I think my point for educators is we value their work. We're going to work with them in good faith to land a deal where we can again get a win-win-win scenario where the boards of education, the unions who are fighting for their members, boards who are fighting for their trustees, and of course the government fighting for students, that all of us could leave the table with some wins. And I think that's what a negotiation ought to be. I think we can land deals, but I think what this experience has sort of taught me and reminded me in a very sobering way, is that these types of decisions to consider strike action, they have real impacts on families. I mean, there's a lot of angst, there's financial consideration, there's childcare. I mean, this is not something we should be just, casually invoking. It has real impacts on people, and the most vulnerable in our society. Kids with intellectual or developmental disability, it is for them especially, they need that support, need to be in the classroom. We have a duty to those kids. And so I'm just happy that cooler heads prevailed. We came together. We put your students first, and ultimately they remain in class this Monday. And I want to make sure we provide that stability for the coming months, because I want kids learning.
Sure.
That is the objective every day in the province of Ontario.
Minister, looking ahead, we know NDP leader Andrea Horwath, opposition leader, is going to be holding a press conference later on this morning, calling on the government to go backward when it comes to some of the cuts. Do you foresee that happening?
What I would simply say to Ms. Horwath and the Prime Minister is also out today. There's a lot of politicians inserting themselves into a negotiation that needs to be depoliticized. If we all, and I will take those two leaders for example, I think we all have a shared commitment to our kids. No party has a monopoly on that. We all care about the next generation. If you care, put word into action and permit the negotiating process to happen unimpeded, without any intervention, partisanship, and political self-interest. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not about politicians. It's not about the Prime Minister. It's not about you. It's really not about me. It's about families in Ontario that deserve to have predictability. And I think if we reorient our mind to focus on our kids, I think we'll allow settlements to be voluntarily reached, and we will permit more stability in a sector that could use more of it, not less of it.
Okay, as you mentioned, I think we can all appreciate some of the hard work that our education workers do.
Sure.
And you're going to come on back later again when we start talking with the elementary teachers, yes?
I will, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that, Minister. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. You can have a nap now. He's been awake for quite some time. Thank you for that.